In today's episode. No, you don't need admin permissions for that. Grab that printer port. A small story from my last job. Are you sure you looked everywhere? Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. No, you don't need admin permissions for that. In my company, we have a team that IT and systems hate. They're so entitled, all MBAs from top universities who look to the rest of the office as beneath them. They have the best cutting-edge hardware that any pro gamer would be envious of, and they still complain that the machines are too slow. Hint, might have something to do with the 20 Excel files you have open on top of the Bloomberg app, plus the crappy macros you wrote that have no memory management. What's that? You don't know what memory management is? You don't say. They always want any new software they can get their hands on, which needs to be approved by the larger company we belong to, and go through the proper onboarding security process, even though they barely know how to use it, because someone read that it might do something they could use at some point, and they want it yesterday. We have company-wide security policies that apply to everyone, yet they have to have exemptions because they cannot do their work like this, and upper management lets them get away with it because they make the company a lot of money, although luckily Business Daddy is zeroing down on that and slowly kicking them off of their golden pedestal. In any case, for a reason that doesn't deserve explaining, they're moving databases, so they needed a sandbox place where to do their development. When I set them up in a test server I manage personally, I told them that security policies dictated by higher powers explicitly state that I was not to give them admin rights to their database, and that there was no possible reason why they would need it. My bosses would have just given up and let them run wild on the server, but I am more stubborn and headstrong, much to their chagrin. I just gave them all the read/write/DDL permissions, so they can do and undo anything they want within their own pigsty without it contaminating the other databases we have there. Fast forward a couple of months, and after a few bumps, they're now wanting to move the tables from their old database to the new one on the sandbox. Side note, for some contract reasons, we cannot just take a backup of the old one and load it into the new server, so it really has to be a table-by-table transfer. The problem is that once they move their tables, they need to add primary keys to them, and for that they now need admin rights. My **T meter starts beeping. I go back on their email and remind them that we cannot give them admin rights. I want to add especially for such a ridiculous reason, but I save it for myself, and that any script they need to run that requires higher permissions, they can send it to me, and I'll review it and run it. They don't like that. There's a back and forth on the emails, yes, no, yes, nah, but we have our weekly meeting scheduled for that day, so anything they want to tell me, they can say it to my virtual face. Along comes the meeting, and they start by saying it's non-negotiable. They need the rights because it's a lot of tables they need to migrate, and they're too busy and don't have the time to go through each table with me, and they rather do it themselves. I'm confused because they will need to script every table as a create command, so why not include the keys then and there? But apparently someone else will automate that scripting, so they don't need to worry about that. Besides, they're too busy to go through the automation process and change the script to include the keys. I still don't understand their logic or how they'll be automating the scripting, but I still won't give them the permissions. Any key they want to include after the tables are built can be sent over to me and I'll run the script. But no, they don't have the time to go through every table with me. They're too busy to schedule a meeting and sit down with me to get the keys added. I'm doubly confused now. Who's talking about a meeting? Just send the code you need to run. Well, unstoppable force meets unmovable object, and they just get frustrated. They literally say, let's move on, because we're getting nowhere with this, and I don't plan to discuss this for 40 minutes while we get nothing done. My blood boils, and I just say fine, I just don't understand why you cannot script whatever you need to change and send it to me. You say you're too busy to go through every single table, but you'd still need to know which columns need to be set to a primary key for each table. If you don't know that, I don't see how you'll be able to add them, admin rights or not. It's worth pointing out that my boss and boss's boss have been quiet all this time, and it's just me and them bashing it out. Well, after my snarky reply, my boss jumps in and tries to defuse the situation. Okay, maybe if we set up another meeting you can explain us what you're trying to accomplish, and we'll see how we can help you. The main guy is already sharing his screen and shows us in the Object Explorer in SSMS, expand databases, expand database underscore name, expand tables, expand table underscore name, right-click keys, click on new foreign key, warning message pops out saying they need permissions to do that action. We need to go through hundreds of tables and do this. You want to volunteer your time just because you don't want to give us admin rights? Fine. Go ahead. Well, TFTS, here's where my jaw drops. Mr. Better Than You top university MBA genius that is too busy to go through every single one of the tables with me is actually planning on going through each and every single one of his database tables, expand, right-click, and add a primary key in the most inefficient way possible. I'm just bewildered and simply say you do know that what you've just done can be scripted, right? What? That whole action of selecting a table, adding a column to be a primary key. All of that can be scripted. I just typed the command in the meeting chat. Alter table, table underscore name, add constraint, key underscore name, primary key clustered, column underscore name. Suddenly, his angry tone shifts in a second faster than a bipolar Karen off her meds. Oh. Okay. Fine, let's do it like that. Grab that printer port. Back in the days I was a network supervisor for the UK offices of a South Korean shipping company, now since gone bankrupt. The head office decided it was time to move the company onto a modern network-capable version of the COBOL/mainframe batch system they used for shipping-related documentation. It was to be a all-singing dancing system that installed updates to the user PCs as they started up the software each day. As software loaded, it would check a location to see if any new updates were available. It would then download/install these updates before starting. This system was meant to be fully network aware, so you could sign into the program from any office and print invoices/reports/bills of lading/etc. to your local office printers. Various printers were assigned to print queues dedicated to each print function with the correct paper installed. Imagine our surprise when we went to print one function, can't remember what it was after this long, and the system gave an error about the printer not being available. Print queue is there. Printer is ready and online. Why can't we print? After some investigation, we find out the developer for that particular function back in South Korea tested their software output by printing to the printer plugged into his local printer port, think it was LPT1, on his PC. Everything worked, so he hard-coded the software to only print to that printer port. Too much trouble to rewrite the software. So from now on we had to run a batch command on each PC, starting up to capture LPT1 and assign it to the print queue for that function so the printer could receive the output as intended. So there we had fully network-capable system that would only print to a printer connected to your PC. A small story from my last job. Prior to my current position, I worked at an MSP. One of the companies we supported used some credit card processing software that would occasionally experience an issue. It couldn't work due to a port not being available. Now, we had a documented fix that was fairly quick and simple to implement, so downtime for that issue was fairly low. It was frustrating for both our client and their customers while it was happening though, and it was only a band-aid fix. We were fairly busy when I first started, so didn't really have time to try and solve the root problem. Then COVID hit. We lost some clients, but not the one in question, and most of our clients let some employees go, so we had less tickets. That also meant we had more time, so when this happened again, and it was already a slow day, I got to investigating and called the company that made the CC processing software. Turns out, they had hard-coded a port number into their software. That port number was in the 49152 to 65535 range. When I realized this, I facepalmed a little. There was the root cause of the problem, and why it was as intermittent as it was. So, I found a way to prevent Windows Server from handing that port out, ran it by our resident server bro, and then implemented it. As far as I know, the company didn't experience that problem ever again. Are you sure you looked everywhere? I've been an IT support manager at a state agency for quite a few years, and I have accumulated a ton of IT horror stories. When you combine government workers and technology, the tales can border on legendary. On this occasion, however, technology was merely the setting. We were converting from our original username password method of logging into the network to a two-factor authentication system. For those who don't know what this is, you still use a username and a password to log in, but now you also have a key fob that gives you a 6-digit number that you also have to enter into the login screen. The number on the fob we were using at the time automatically changed every 60 seconds. Each user had their own fob. The number on your fob wouldn't work with anyone else's username and password but yours. It was a giant leap in network security. The weakness in this system was our users. Now, I work with many wonderful people who I respect and who are hard workers. Don't get me wrong, these people are very good at what they do, and we're lucky to have them, but just as in any office, there are a few special people. These are the ones that make you seriously wonder how they find their way to the office in the morning without getting hurt. These people can make a simple project rollout challenging, because we have to take them into consideration whenever we write instructions or documentation. These are the ones who may seriously ask you where the any key is. In preparation for the two-factor system rollout, we had to not only issue the key fobs to every user, but we also had to provide them with foolproof instructions on how to use said FOBs. We wrote and rewrote the documentation, got it worded as perfectly as possible in order to both be informative and appease anal-retentive upper management. The final product was a thing of Frankenstein-like beauty, a single page of grade school-like instructions including a picture of the login screen with an arrow pointing to where the 6-digit code should be entered, a picture of the actual fob, a red arrow pointing to the window on the fob where the 6-digit number would be found, yes, really, and instructions to call our help desk with any problems or questions. Manila envelopes were prepared for everyone. The envelope had the name of the employee, an instruction sheet, and that employee's assigned fob. The envelopes were sealed and placed in each employee's chair, and each chair was placed facing the aisle. It was a foolproof masterpiece. Enter the fools. There were the usual questions. Do I have to use this to log in? Is this fob mine or my neighbor's? And the ever-popular "what's this for?" The tech support calls were even better. Out of 150+ users, we only had 2 who complained that their fob's code wasn't working. One was asked to read out the code she was using and said LOE 115, at which point we had to tell her that she was holding the plainly printed fob upside down. One person, however, complained that she had gotten no fob at all. My tech scrambled. We were sure no one had been left out. A token was assigned to her account in the system, but she said she didn't get one, so we quickly assigned and synced up a new fob, grabbed an envelope and the instructions, and quickly dispatched it to the user. When my tech got there, the user wheeled around, said "oh, thank you," and stood, revealing the envelope we had left the night before in her chair. She had been sitting on it.